Welcome everyone to the finale of Super Mario World Randomizer. Last time, we cleared several exits, as well as the whole entire world. This time, it's time to finish these last few stages. So, let's talk about what my thought process was in this stage. I'm like, for those who've seen the normal Let's Play, there's 3 doors to take. So I'm like, okay, which of these is the most mathematical favorable decision? And I'm like, okay, there's these 2 doors right here. So obviously, going with the 2 doors is the more favorable, statistically favorable option, right? And I'm like, yeah, hey, there's a 50% chance that one of these doors just leads to the exit, as there's 4 total doors that could possibly appear. And that's what my thought process was initially. So now I'm like, okay, there's a 25 of the 3 remaining doors. 1 out of 3 now contain an impossible exit. So naturally, I want to go with the method that has 2, thinking along the same lines as the amount of doors that initially came upon me in the initial playthrough, which right here, this door right here just would hopefully lead to 2 doors is my thought process, or maybe 1. And indeed, right here, I'm thinking that's just the same room with 2 doors. Or perhaps it's another room that starts similar and also has 2 doors. Still holding out hope that right here, of these 2 doors, would be an exit. So I just go with the one that's more difficult first, just to get it out of the way. And, maybe get lucky with this. And no, it just leads me over here. So now it's just a 50% chance. There's 2 more doors. And unfortunately, it's the last one. So I could have just flown right here and get all the 2 doors. Which I probably was just confusing the logic of this in the highest setting. But with that stage out of the way, I just got, 4 more exits now. Pay attention to, and the final castle, where it's not quite all hell breaking loose. Speaking of all hell, the difficulty that I chose for this is it poses a fairly reasonable challenge of events, but on the hardest difficulty, you got some crazy challenges like suddenly removing water from underwater stages, making them really, really precise. And that was part of what I was considering for a third run before doing this post commentary, if I should do a third run or not. And if you've seen my second update, I've had to cancel that because some of the crazy scenarios that have popped up have made it just a complete and utter just absolutely insane to get a good recording going out of the way. One where I'm just satisfied with the gameplay and don't have to scrap 50% of the footage and send it to a deleted scene. It's real. And I might do a third run somewhere around the line if I can get a favorable recording, but so far I've had 3 attempts and it's just not been favorable. But you got mazes and repeat stages and just trying to get favorable gameplay. It's just been a headache of several attempts and just beating my head against the wall. And I'm not. It's just not happening. And here's a room here. This section right here is an example right here of crazy amount of doors. But I also this is another area where I had to consider my options right here, and where this stage is repeated in one of the failed recordings with very much similar layouts, except for the doors leading different places. But I thought, hey, the gameplay is quite similar here, and it would be just repetitive style of gameplay, which was another part that got into considering scrapping a third run. Besides it ended up being 4 episodes of just rage, and rage is not my favorite style of video. I do have some moments of frustration, but it's me just trying to challenge myself and show off. I like to show off, but I also like to, I feel like I'm making progress and not delete 10 minutes of an episode just because I couldn't make progress due to some RNG factor, just making life utterly insane. So that was another reason why I decided what I'm doing. I might do another third run in the future, but I might not. It's just been utterly... It's one of those things where you get so much frustration from a game that you just don't want to play it again. And so, yeah, I'm just scrapping it for now. Anyway, here's Boo. Same fight, just 3 hits. And I should also mention that, one of the things of the difficulty is it changes the amount of hits that bosses can deal. Either they can be, and it always seems like I'm getting extremes. Either the bosses take like 8 to 12 hits to defeat and move insanely fast, or they take like no hits whatsoever and it's just pathetically easy. It's like it's one of those things where I always seem to get the most frustrating bits, and I'd love to show off some parts of it, but I want to try to do. It's one of those things where you want to do a game justice when you're let's playing it, or a randomizer in this case, and I don't feel like I'm doing it justice in the third run. But here's an example of doors and stuff being randomized. I was thinking this was going to lead forward, but nope. It leads me to death and a fresh midway point, which hey, I should probably have gotten, but I didn't. It's especially noteworthy when this room appears, because you got enemies that can just give you a hit. You don't have a Yoshi to have near infinite hits, because Yoshi in this stage, if you have Yoshi in this room, you can continually get back on Yoshi and tank another hit, get back on Yoshi, tank another hit. But here, just one hit and I'm dead, with no power up in sight, and a million enemies coming after me, with just me having to hedge my bets and do crazy dodges. Luckily, I was able to dodge all these enemies fairly well, and I could have risked going through the boo ring, but at this point, I was sweating bullets. I wanted to keep it safe. Really, I see that 56, or yeah, that's 95X right there, ready for my 96 exit to go to the final stage, just ready to get this project done. Where I've been on and off recordings time and time again, and I still feel the same right here. Knowing full well that the failed commentary and the months of school were just utter insanity for me. And here's another point of canceling that project. This stage right here. The gauntlet. Let's talk about the gauntlets. I've enabled the mini gauntlet right here, which has about 4 rooms, which I was hoping for the 4 layout. You can probably guess by the timestamp how many rooms I've gotten. But there's the major gauntlet, which has 8 total rooms, and it's just utter insanity, and just crazy to beat. And to the people who have perfected their gameplay of this, instead of just focusing on a million different games and wanting to try to get good at each and every one of them, and just hedging my bets there. It looks amazing when people can do that crazy good at gameplay, and just takes a lot of practice. I do not have such a luxury of practice, so I have to make compromises with gameplay. And luckily, one of the compromises is a fairly easy editing job, where there was a couple fails, but most of the time I've had an easy time of it through this playthrough. Except for the beginning, where stuff really could troll me, and that's what I was wanting to show off with what this randomizer can do, where the randomizer can give you difficulties. And I feel like from the earlier episodes that was well demonstrated, but here, with all the hiatuses and losing track of what's going on and all the technical difficulties, it's one of those where after so much time, some projects lose their charm. This was one of those where it unfortunately started to get to that point. because I don't have to worry about insane projects in school anymore, I can more easily focus on recording. When if the weather permits, or another thing, if it's not, if the weather permits, as probably the biggest factor. And I know right now there's been a lot of heat storms, and it's been just difficult for people around the world, especially that heat wave in France I was reading about in the news. But it's just trying to, survive the summer heat and stay hydrated and find ways to stay hydrated in this other heat, and then taking recording second as a secondary measure. And I could try to find some better setup, or just spend what little money I could in upgrading, but I have to. It's one of those things where you have to consider priorities. So life throws a lot at you. And to the people who have constantly been able to do this Let's Playing thing for 10 years and have had a lot more life experience, this is a project that has demonstrated my respect for them. How people consistently have been able to put out projects like this for years, videos like this for years of a decent quality. And sure, everyone has tech problems. And this is a part where, I was probably saying something about how everyone's experienced this fight before, and how with all this redundancy, I just want to get it done. Get a project that probably wasn't the best gameplay, or probably wasn't my best work, but I like to think that I at least was decent with the gameplay, at least decent in showing off what the randomizer could do, while not beating my head against a wall and constantly having to make that call of, okay, I've had 3 failed playthroughs right now of just gameplay that I wouldn't favor watching. And ultimately, you have to make some rough, tough calls. Unfortunately, the third run, that's what happened. And I also know that this room right here on the hardest difficulty can be filled with water, which just makes it an utter test of sanity. Where you got such a small window to hit Bowser that it's just, you gotta be like, maybe if I did a shorter category, that might be better. No, it's just other things have gotten other frustrations have just made it more difficult. So, maybe someday. But and I mentioned that this fight unfortunately is pretty much the same as the original, just with a cape. Still another princess, still the princess, and some probably some dated chat messages if you're watching this several years down the line, and some notes to probably some other speedrunning community internal jokes or something right here. Bridges, right? Oh yeah, okay, yeah, some speedrun reference that not everyone would get. As well as me deciding debating if I should do a third run or not. I would have done the switch the Yoshi category, but like I said, I've just had so much frustrations with recording. I've already shown off two different settings on the randomizer already, that there would be very little change in terms of gameplay. So with that in mind, this is indeed the finale of the whole Super Mario World Randomizer series for now. I might do another episode a while back in the future, but this is it for now. Hope you all have a good one, and take care.